Hey everybody, it's Linda. Welcome back to the podcast. Today is a very special episode, so I just want to remind you to stay tuned to the very end because you will hear all the takeaways from the episode. Enjoy. Hello and welcome back to Empowered, the podcast. I am your host, Linda Brand. I am so excited to bring you this conversation today with Rabbi Avraham Susskind. Rabbi Susskind is a kind, beautiful, gentle soul. I met him and his wife, Leah, and their 4 daughters about 13 years ago in Novi, Michigan. They came from New York to Michigan on a mission, and they have changed the city of Novi by creating a beautiful, safe space for Jewish people to come, gather, learn, and grow. They have services and programs and classes. They are like family to me now. I'm very excited to share this conversation of the rabbi answering a lot of my questions. We are talking about money, ego, self-worth, and so much more. If you like the show, please share, subscribe, and review. I really appreciate it. I want to grow this audience and reach as many people as I can. And have a beautiful day and enjoy. Hello, Rabbi. Thank you so much for being here and being so generous with your time to share and talk with us and my audience about living empowered and spirituality and just living our best life. And I want to have you tell us a little bit about you. I know you created an amazing community in Novi, Michigan, and you were from New York. I know you have 4 daughters, 4 beautiful daughters, a beautiful wife, and you came from New York to Novi, Michigan, and created this amazing community. And that's how I met you. It was so many years ago, I think like 12 or more years ago. So first off, what brought you to Novi? And I wanted to hear a little background on becoming a rabbi. Did you always know you wanted to be a rabbi, or how did that come about?
Well, thank you for that nice intro, Linda. First of all, thank you for having me. My pleasure to be here. And you were a part of that amazing community, and part of it, what made it amazing. And that was really nice that you were part of it. And it continues to grow, and we're very proud of our community and the relationships that we've created here. Since it's been a beautiful journey, and you've got to see a nice portion of it, and you've seen you've been able to observe our progress. I think even just on different places that we've been at. I don't know at what point you met us, but we began doing everything out of our home, if you remember, and slowly we outgrew that. And then went to the community center, Novi Community Center, and then we got different spaces around town. So we've definitely made our Jewish mark, and our spiritually elevated the different spaces around our city until we got to our current center that we have.
Yeah.
So your question, Linda, remind me.
What brought you? Well, did you always know you wanted to be a rabbi?
Did I always know I wanted to be a rabbi? I think what I always knew was I wanted to make a positive impact with whatever I had in me. So with whatever I was educated with, any knowledge I had, or any, skills, or any way that I can contribute to other people's lives and to the community at large, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I think the reason, if I look back, I may have not realized it at the time growing up as a kid. You're not really you don't have the maturity, the mind maturity to analyze as to why you have developed these tendencies and feelings. But I was fortunate, my wife and I, Leah, that you mentioned, we both grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in the same community, and we grew up in the presence of the Rebbe, the Lubavitch Rebbe, which you might have heard. I've spoken about, and if your listeners haven't heard, easy Google will tell you a little bit about the Rebbe. The Rebbe lived, actually, the Rebbe passed in 1994. When I was a child and a young student, and Leah as well, my wife, we both grew up in his presence. And besides for being a great scholar and a spiritual giant and a tremendous spiritually high soul, and a more on a level that I was able to relate to, was we saw how the Rebbe cared for others, and anything he had, he shared with others. And just being in that environment, in that nurturing spiritual environment, it was viral. It made you want to do the same. You saw the sense of accomplishment. You saw the sense of making a difference, and how important that difference is to God, and how important the difference is to your very existence and your purpose. It was a vibe that your neshama, your soul, sensed, and you sort of caught that from him. And
so your dad was not a rabbi?
My dad was not a practicing rabbi. He's an ordained rabbi, but did not practice as a rabbi. And my wife's dad as well. But that's something that we wanted. And so when we initially met, Leah and I, this is something that we both had in us.
Oh, nice.
And we connected those goals. And that was a primary goal and something that we wanted for our lives. And we were fortunate and had the great blessing to be able to see that dream be fulfilled and continue to be fulfilled.
Wow, nice. And then what brought you to Novi, Michigan?
Well, there's two ways to say it. One is the sort of spiritual way, and then there is the sort of circumstantial way. The spiritual way is, I believe, that every person is placed in the environment that they need to be, with the people they need to connect to, and with the opportunities to interact with those they are able to make an impact on. So that's on a soul level, But logistically, what happened was Leah and I were offered to teach in a Jewish school, like a high school, and we were living in New York at the time, just after we got married, and we felt that it would be something productive. It was something that we felt like we'd be able to make a difference, a positive difference, each in our own way, and we took that, though we knew that ultimately we're going to look to branch out to a community where there are people, Jewish people, who are not necessarily affiliated with anything Jewish, or even if they're affiliated, it's very loosely affiliated, and reach out and share what we have. So we knew ultimately that's where we'd like to go. But, in the interim, we felt that this was a nice opportunity as well. And so we took that opportunity. That was here in Michigan. And after a couple of years, we were looking for opportunities to create a community. And it just made sense for us. It was easiest, actually, to look local. We were here, we were in the area, we can branch out. And so one summer, when we had less teaching responsibilities, we started to focus on, where is there a community that's being underserved in their spiritual and Jewish needs? We found Novi.
You sure did, yeah, because I lived in Novi for, the whole time, it's 25 years, but before you, it's like, I didn't even know any Jewish people there. And then I found out like there was one across the street that nobody knew. And then, you brought all these people together, and you'd be like, oh, you live in Livonia? Oh, you live here? And it was like all these people you brought together that no one even knew they were Jewish, or knew that, it's just so interesting. And you picked a wonderful place, or God divinely put you there. And like you said, yeah,
that's very true. We've met people who would tell us that they are the only Jewish person that lives in Novi. And I always would wait for their reaction when I told them, not only are you not the only Jew who lived in Novi, but as a matter of fact, in your subdivision, just across the street of you, is a Jewish family. And I said, really? Oh, we meet them all the time, but they've never shared that they're Jewish as well. Right. So we've seen a lot of that over the years.
Okay, yeah. And so I know I was telling you about Kathy Heller. She's a podcast host and a Jewish woman that I really love, and everything she says and does resonates with me. And she had a rabbi on her show, and he said, I think the question was like, why are we here? And, this is jumping right into everything, and his answer was, we're here to learn and to teach. So I will ask you the same question. And then the other thing is, we are all masterpieces. We are all masterpieces, and we are all part of the master, piece of the master. So can you speak on those two statements?
Yeah. I mean, that sounds right. The idea from a Jewish perspective and the way it's taught in the Torah is that each and every one of us, every soul that comes into this world, has a particular mission and goal for why God has placed us here. I often say, Linda, you may have heard me say it in the classes because I know you've attended our classes throughout the years. God is like the ultimate employer. What is the ideal employer is you don't hold anyone on the payroll that isn't needed. And you have the right amount of people that you need for success of the product that you're looking to accomplish and you're looking to produce. And so if God, invested the time, the energy, the effort to give us life, to place us in this world, just by that knowledge alone, God is imparting to us that we're valuable to him. And that there is something that we can contribute to this world that no one else can. Because if someone else could, then that's a duplicate. That's a double. And any good and effective CEO of a company knows that you're wasting, you have extra staff. If someone else can accomplish that work and you have two people doing the same thing, well, that's a waste. So just by the fact that you're here, that each and every one of us, God has given us life and invested all that in us, means that there's something unique that we can contribute in this world that no one else can. From the billions of people that are here, there's something unique. Now, it's a challenge perhaps to find that unique. We can talk about that. What unique contribution we can make to the world. But just the knowledge itself that I am here because I have value in God's eyes. God would not have invested all that and given me all this life that I have. And it takes a lot to put this together, each and every one of our lives to keep together and give us another day to live. But God does it because he sees purpose and value uniquely to us that no one else could replace. And I think that is one of the Jewish ideas of self-confidence. Where does a person get their confidence? Is because God has confidence in me and in you and in each and every one of us, just by virtue of the fact that he gave us another day to live, is him telling us that there's something unique that you can contribute positively in this world that no one else can do. And so we continue to learn and we explore what are those opportunities that we have. And when we find those opportunities that we have, then we contribute and we add our value to those circumstances.
Yeah, I was listening to someone saying the opposite of depression is purpose. So basically, if you are, you could have all this money and just be miserable because you don't have purpose, like you just don't feel worthwhile. And I think that there's a lot of depressed people out there, and there's a lot of wealthy people that are also depressed. And I want to ask you what Judaism says about abundance and money and joy. That's just a topic that I've been working on myself for years because I grew up in scarcity mindset from, my dad growing up in the Depression and just grew up in that way. So I always have this like lack and fear around money, or and I've been working on it for a very long time. But anyway, but the purpose. So what I tell people, because I did start a coaching business when I moved to Florida, and I'm just exploring different things. I got my Florida real estate license, so I'm doing real estate here as well and some other things. But what I say is, like, if you're depressed, go help somebody else. Go help somebody less fortunate than you. I met somebody recently at an open house, and her son was struggling with some things. And I said, he needs to go walk dogs at the shelter, just to feel better. That's what I found, is to get out of your own head. And people just dwell in all kinds of negativity, and it's a shame. But anyway, I just want to hear what you have to say on that. And, ultimately, I feel like some people struggle with that, purpose. Even Tony Robbins, do you know who that is? Tony Robbins, he's a very popular person who, he's a coach. He's coached presidents and, everybody. And he will say the opposite of depression is purpose. And, he's just amazing as a coach. He never went to college, and he just read books, and he's a multi-millionaire. And I just love, it's very inspiring. He's very inspiring, but he will absolutely tell you that you got to have purpose. So it's finding the purpose, I think, or the purpose finds you, perhaps. I don't know.
Well, it's a combination of both. I think you need the purpose finds you, but you have to be open-minded to look out for it. You remind me, actually, Linda, there's a fellow who you and I know. We happened to meet each other. I'll just mention his first name, Larry. You probably know who I'm referring to.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And we met each other. He was going to Home Depot for something that he needed for his house, and I was going to Home Depot. We met each other in Home Depot. And we got into conversation, and all of a sudden, we began talking about another member in our community who needed assistance, who needed help. And we, right there in the aisle of Home Depot, made the resolution of how we can help that individual who needed assistance and friendship. And Larry, we realized that Larry can do it in his capacity, and I can do it in my capacity. And a couple of days later, at one of the classes, Larry mentioned to me, he said, Rabbi, he says, referring to himself, I thought I was going to Home Depot to get something that I needed to repair in my house, and you were doing it for your home. But little did we know that the divinely orchestrated was that you and I should go to Home Depot at the same time so we can talk about a member in our community who needed help, that we were uniquely positioned. Larry was uniquely positioned due to the opportunity that he had, and I was uniquely positioned due to the opportunity that I had to help this person. And thank God, their family is in a better place. And so, what I realized from that and many other such, occurrences that happen is that, yes, opportunities, we're brought into opportunities, but then also you have to be vigilant. You have to be open to the idea that it maybe not be as you planned, but there's opportunity here to help the greater good. And so, yeah, I agree with that. I think that it's a combination of both. I think that opportunities are always there for us to do good. We always have to be mindful and look out for those opportunities.
Yeah. I think it's called synchronicity is what a lot of people in my community call it when that happened, where you met Larry in the Home Depot. That was like
Right.
synchronicity. Yeah, it happens to me all the time. And it's been happening for my son. And it just is like the divine, it's always working out in my favor. I feel like we're programmed to be negative. Like the news is always feeding us negativity, which I don't really watch the news, but my broker had a meeting today and he was sharing the news information about banks and different negative things, but it's okay. It was educational, but I don't really watch it because I feel like it's a lot of fear and negativity. And if you're trying to work on your mindset, a positive mindset and a joyful state, yeah, I just feel like that doesn't help. But so I remember, as you probably know, I don't have any Jewish upbringing, really. I had a Christmas tree. My dad chose to be an atheist. It's a whole story. When I was pregnant with Josh, I started to learn about Judaism, and I started to learn. So in 1997, because I saw like Hanukkah and Passover when my childhood girlfriend had Hanukkah and stuff. But I remember learning about joy, that I thought there was a lot of wisdom in the Judaism, in the faith. And they talk about joy. Are we here for joy?
Yeah, well, I think that joy is finding happiness in life, and being happy in life is something that we're meant to have. We're meant to be joyous and be happy in life. And that's part of actually Jewish teachings, is we're meant to be joyous. I think oftentimes the misunderstanding about happiness and joy is the pursuit for happiness and joy. And sometimes that pursuit and the obsession of finding happiness and coming up short is a big letdown for people. And the Jewish thinking for that is, there is no idea in Judaism of pursuing happiness. It's because happiness is a byproduct of something else. You can't really get happiness in and of itself. There's something else you need to get, and when you get that, the byproduct is happiness. It's sort of like, going into a Walgreens and you buy shampoo, and together with it comes conditioner. It's like, buy one, get one free. It's the byproduct of it. In Judaism, it's about pursuing goodness.
Mm.
And goodness brings happiness.
Mm.
So the misunderstanding is, yeah, I want happiness. And that's the ultimate, where the goodness is going to bring us to, a state of happiness, a state of contentment and satisfaction. We've accomplished, we've done something productive, we made a difference in someone else's life, in the world, in our community, and so on. And that goodness that we've done will give us the sense and the feeling and the emotion of happiness. And sometimes, happiness is equated as maybe pleasure. And pleasure oftentimes is momentary. It's in the moment. It's something we're seeking, but
Doesn't
happiness,
last.
right, exactly. Happiness lasts.
Yeah.
But the type of happiness that lasts is when it's a byproduct of goodness. You may remember, Linda, I've shared at services in the past during high holidays. There's the traditional wish that we share with others in Hebrew during the New Year, the Jewish New Year, which is Rosh Hashanah, is well, let me remember actually what it is. It is Shana Tova.
Yeah.
Right? In English, it's used as Happy New Year. But the literal translation of the word Shana Tova is not Happy New Year. January 1st, oftentimes the greeting is Happy New Year. But the Jewish New Year, Shana Tova, means good year or good New Year. And why is the emphasis on the word Tova, which comes from the singular word of tov, which is good? Why is the emphasis on good? So some people will say, well, Jews are not so into happiness, so they talk about being good. But the real reason is because the Torah teaches us that when we pursue goodness, we will be happy. When we do good, we will be happy. And so we wish each other on the Jewish New Year, Shana Tova, opportunities for good, to do good during the year. Because if we will seize those opportunities to do goodness, we will be happy. So happiness is important in life. But it's important to also realize that the happiness is a byproduct of goodness. When we do good, when we make a difference, when we're purposeful in our day-to-day lives, we've contributed, we've done well, we've done something positive, we will feel happy. And so that's the Jewish perspective on happiness and the sense of feeling joy that I've made a difference, I've done something good.
Oh, I love that. That's so helpful and powerful. I think it's going to help. This podcast is going to help a lot of people. Like this podcast, which I didn't even expect to be doing, is really kind of my purpose work or my goodness, because I'm helping people. I'm bringing guests that are health and wellness. I'm bringing guests like you. I'm bringing guests that are coaches and that help a lot of people. And it's like free. I'm just saying it's free content and I feel it's helping people. So I'm just saying, like, this feels like it's my goodness. I walk dogs sometimes at this rescue because I have a rescue and it's right. God planted me. Let me tell you this, Rabbi, there's a Chabad. I could walk it's literally, why I'm here. It's just funny because there's 1 mile, less than 1 mile, a dog shelter. And Chabad is closer than that.
Wow. Nice. Good for you.
It's just wild that this happened. And, but anyway, and I started out walking the dogs, like probably for myself to feel good or something. And then it ends up like, oh, they need me. So I'm going to keep going. But it's just interesting. I know that intention has something to do with it too. Like I can't donate money saying I'm intending, it's going to come back because God will reward me for giving. It has to be, I want to give this money. Right? It shouldn't be intention that I'm giving because I want to receive something. It should be I'm giving because I want to give. Is that correct?
Well, in general, whatever we give, and giving is a catch-all phrase for anything that we have, whether it's our talents, our skills, any resource that we have that we do. It's actually not about what we receive in return. What we receive in return, actually, is the opportunity to give. Because what we're thankful for at the end of the day is not what we receive, it's what we give. Because then we're functioning as we were created. We, as a human being, we're designed to function, to be a giver.
Wow.
That's why, slavery and tyranny is so, it is so terrible from a Jewish perspective, besides for, acts of cruelty and so on. It simply doesn't allow a person to operate as they are meant to operate. A person is meant to operate and function by giving and by doing. And as we said before, God has given everyone a set of unique talents and skills and resources that they have to be able to contribute. And so when we do that, we are actually living a healthy life. So it's not about, okay, if I do X, Y, and Z, here's what I will get back in return, and that's why I should do this. So sort of like the goal is what I will receive, and I need to do, the means to this end of receiving. Actually, the end goal is the doing, because then you're functioning as a healthy, spiritually healthy human being. The way you live a healthy day as you were meant to function is if you contributed something good, you've done something godly, something purposeful that is aligned with your soul and your godly values. Then you've lived a healthy, spiritually healthy day. And that is a goal in and of itself without what you receive in return.
Yeah.
That is the gift.
Yeah. No one's ever giving has never caused anyone to not have. It seems like when you give, every time I've ever given, it's never because I get things in the mail from these animal rescues all the time. They know who I am and they found me down here and they're just always sending me wanting, donations. And it's just and I want to give, but it's you kind of have to pick and choose and stuff. But
in Judaism, Linda, there's a lot of emphasis on candles, on flames on candles. We light the Shabbat candles every Friday evening before the Shabbat, or as the Shabbat is coming in, and then there's on the anniversary of the passing of a loved one, we light a candle. On Hanukkah, the candle. And one of the explanations is, why is Judaism focused so much on the flame of a candle? Well, the Torah actually says that the soul of the human being is compared to a candle. And the interesting thing is that you'll notice if you have something in your pocket and you give it to someone else, well, now someone else has it and you don't have it in your pocket anymore. Or any item that you have and you give it to someone else, you don't have it anymore. But when a candle is different. The flame on a candle, if you light another candle, not only does it not take away from the light of your candle, you've actually added now more light. And that's how spirituality works. When you give of yourself, not only does it not diminish from what you have, now there's more of that spirituality in the world. And so giving, we always have opportunities to give. Whatever it is that we have opportunities to give, because that is part of why of our entire being, as to why God has placed us here, is to give and share. So if we're here another day, there must be something that we have that we can give that not only doesn't diminish from what we have, but it adds to what we have, and will cause us to feel fulfilled and satisfied and be happy. But that's not the intention, actually. The intention of why we do what we do is not so I can feel happy or not so I can feel satisfied. That's the byproduct. The reality is you will feel satisfied. You will feel happy. But that's not the purpose as to why we do it. That's just to function as we are set to be, is to do that. The end result is that you will feel satisfied and happy and a sense of fulfillment and accomplishment.
Yeah, I love it. I love all of it. So are you what do you think about ego? Sometimes ego, I've grown and evolved, and this, you've seen it you've literally watched it. You told me that, You've seen the growth that happened with me. And it took me, I had a physical illness in 2012 that took me down emotionally, financially, physically, and I overcame it after 4 years. And I talk about it. I used to have a lot of shame around it, but I feel like part of that was, was a blessing. It was all a blessing. Every negative experience, I feel like there's always an underlying blessing, and it taught me how to take care of myself, how to just self-love. It was a beginning journey for me because I was raised, a certain way. I was run free as a teenager. I didn't have direction or, I'm not a victim. I'm just saying. I've been on other people's podcasts and they interview me and I tell everything, and I'm just authentic and honest. And I feel it's going to help somebody and inspire somebody else. But I bring it up because, what was I saying? We were talking about something that, the journey and the ego, just like because of the programming and I'm not going to say my family was horrible. They weren't, but there's just some manipulation and different things that whatever. But ego does sometimes come in, right? There's an ego and there's a soul. There's a higher power within each of us. This is correct.
Right.
So sometimes the ego, yes. So I was just saying, like I just decided to be pescatarian again and not eat animals other than fish, because I was vegetarian for 3 years and I felt higher conscious doing that. I felt like more loving, more sensitive, more care. It just raised my vibration. So anyway, do you believe in the law of attraction? Are you familiar with that?
Right. Well, let's go to the idea of ego that you mentioned.
Yeah, ego.
You mentioned a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
So, the Jewish idea, so God created us with an ego. It didn't just sort of come on its own. Everything that we have in our lives is what's placed within us by God. And part of the purpose of that ego is it's sort of like when you go to the gym. The only way you build muscle is when there is opposition.
Tear it down.
Right? Exactly. So, if it's an easy ride, then you're not growing. You're not building any muscle.
Mm-hmm.
So ego, part of the reason for the ego, we have ego, is that we're mindful of the things that are getting in the way of us growing and being a good person and being a godly person.
Mm.
And overcoming that ego, even if it's hard work, but we know that is what helps us mature and grow spiritually. So it's sort of like, instead of saying, oh, I can't believe it, why do I have this obstacle and everything, this ego is getting in the way and so on. Yeah, it does get in the way, but it's there for a purpose. It's there to acknowledge, its pushback, to acknowledge, what how it's steering us in other directions, so that we can pull to the godly direction. And when we pull to the godly direction, and it's a struggle and it's a pull, that builds what we would call a godly person. So instead of it just being, come natural to us, because it became natural to us, if God wanted it, goodness and kindness and spirituality to come natural to us, he would have created a world of angels who have no ego, who have no selfish desires, who are not looking out just for themselves and be all end all of themselves. God created people who have struggle with the ego, struggle with selfishness. And and sometimes that struggle is very strong. But when we are cognizant, when we're aware of why we were given this struggle, it is because when we overcome that struggle, we become a spiritual being. It's not just sort of this energy flowing through us. We've integrated that energy part of our being. That's how our spiritual muscles grow. And that's how we become a good person. We become more of a godly person. And so, ego is there for us to do our spiritual workout and grow and grow from it.
That's great. That's great. Good information. So, but there are these spiritual laws like the law of attraction. Like, is that in Kabbalah? What is Kabbalah? Can you share and do you study that?
Yes, I do study that. Particularly, I study the Hasidic explanations of the Kabbalistic teachings. So the Kabbalah is the explanation about ourselves, our inner workings, our neshama, our soul. It teaches us about the ego and how to, as we just discussed, utilize the ego for our spiritual growth. It talks about God, and it talks about our relationship with God. It talks about the purpose as to why we're here, how to find our purpose. So a lot of the inner spiritual ideas of Judaism is found in the Kabbalah. And, so Judaism is sort of what I often say and explain. It's sort of like, body and soul. There's the body part of Judaism, which is the laws, the behaviors, the do's and the don'ts. And then there is the Kabbalah, which is the spiritual meaning behind all of it, how it allows us to grow in our relationship with God, how it allows us to grow spiritually, and how it shows us the difference, the positive spiritual difference that we're making in the world, because oftentimes it doesn't look like we're making any progress. But if we view it from the spiritual lenses, which the Kabbalah gives us those spiritual lenses of how to view the meaning behind the mitzvot, the deeds, the godly deeds that we're doing, we're able to chart the progress of our effort and the good and godly deeds, those mitzvot that we're doing. So in short, that is what the Kabbalah teaches us.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was Jewish mysticism. I thought it was something like different, something separate.
Yeah.
But so do you have a meditation practice? What does Judaism say about meditation? I know that it has to be in there somewhere.
Yeah. Well, meditation is a central idea in Kabbalistic teachings, specifically as it's explained in the Hasidic teaching. For me, the meditative process is more about focusing and trying to absorb the studies, the Jewish studies and teachings. So, a lot of us, oftentimes we're very focused on accumulating data. Our study consists of just information. And so, what have you learned today? We sometimes ask ourselves, or we ask our child, what have you learned? It's not so much always about what you've learned. It's of what you have internalized of that information. And that oftentimes is more challenging than just studying, because studying you can quantify. You can say, okay, I did not know this yesterday, and today I know this. And here's what I want to learn more about tomorrow. And it's great. It's great to accumulate data. But it takes more time to sort of allow these ideas to sink in and to, sort of marinate within our internal system and become part of us till it becomes our perspective on life. And so when we experience different things in life, we begin to see it through those lenses and through that perspective. So meditation, as it's explained in the Kabbalah and in the Hasidic teaching, is about allowing the ideas that we study to get absorbed in our system, focusing on those ideas, really thinking about it deeper and seeing how it can apply to the perspectives that we have. And slowly, those perspectives begin to be elevated and shift. And so that's meditation, at least the way I experience it.
Oh, okay. Because for me, it's about sitting still, being quiet, centering, grounding, just like praying is like sort of asking God, and like sitting still in silence is like listening to God. It's like where you're just, and you're becoming more calmer to where when you're out in the world and you set yourself up to win for the day, when you meditate, you pray, you do these things, and then when something happens, you're not as triggered, or if you're not triggered at all, and you normally would be triggered because you sat still and you had this quiet, like just quiet time to just sit and with yourself. And it's very, I mean, I enjoy it. I'm a high energy person. I think you are too, but, it takes time to learn how to sit still, but it does seem to help. But you don't personally. I thought I remembered you talking about meditating at one of the things. Is your birthday coming up? I feel like it is. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. Good memory. Yes, it is. It comes up right before the Jewish holiday of Passover.
Yeah, because I'm an Aries too. Do you believe in astrology? Does Judaism talk about that or no?
Well, Judaism talks about astrology, but Judaism believes that the soul, the energy of the soul, is not limited to any particular spiritual power. It is beyond. As a matter of fact, Judaism says that the soul of the human being was created in the image of God. And one of the commentaries famously asked, well, how could that be? There's another verse that says that God has no image. So how could the soul of the human being be created in God's image if God has no image, right?
Right.
And the way that's explained is that is exactly the idea. Just as God is beyond image, God isn't defined by any particular energy. God's energy is beyond limit, beyond defined. So too the soul of the human being can go always beyond what it is its pre-settings. And so in Judaism, one of the important principles is that nothing is preset. We always have the ability to go beyond our limitations, or what we perceive as being limited. So the soul rises above any confined and restricted spiritual energy.
Nice. That's great. Now, what about affirmations? Do they believe in, like, for someone like me that didn't have somebody cheering me on so much, I kind of do affirmations sometimes, or I have, to help me feel good about myself, to build confidence. It's something therapeutic people do. Now, I was at a church thing. I went to a church thing with someone I met here because I'm open to spiritual, I'm Jewish, but I like to learn. I like to be open to Buddhism and Judaism. I take things I like from everywhere, right? But I always believe in a higher power. And it just seemed like they were not, like, affirmations is not something that they supported. Now, does Judaism believe it's okay to say affirmations?
As a matter of fact, there is one very important affirmation in Judaism that we say every single morning. And we're actually meant to meditate. And that is, in the Hebrew, it's called the Moda Ani prayer. It's a very short prayer, but a very powerful prayer. And there's two parts to the prayer. The first part of the prayer is a thankful part, a part of gratitude. And the second part is the affirmation. We begin our day. As a matter of fact, not just we begin the day, sometimes people think beginning of the day means, after you got out of bed and you took a shower and you brush your teeth and you sat down with your coffee, that's when the day begins. But in Judaism, the day actually begins from the moment you awake. Even while you're still in bed, even before you open your eyes, that's when the day begins. And that first prayer is a short prayer, is meant to be said and thought the moment you awake, while you're still in bed, even if your eyes are still closed. But the moment you are conscious of that I'm here and I'm alive, that is the moment we say this prayer and we think this prayer. And the prayer has two parts to it. One is a gratitude part, and the other one is the affirmation part. And the gratitude is we thank God for restoring our soul, for giving us another day to live. That's number one. And the reason why that is the first thing we are meant to do, even before we, got out of bed, taking a shower, freshen ourselves up, and sit down with our coffee. And that's when most people start, you feel like, okay, now I can think clearly, is because the nature of a human being is, when we wake up in the morning, the first thing we think, okay, is what? The to-do list. Here's what I need to do. There's one thing here. I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that. We have this long to-do list of a bunch of stuff that we need. Well, the Torah, Judaism wants us to say, well, before you start going through the Rolodex in your mind of the to-do list, just be thankful. Absorb the idea, just take in the idea, meditate on the idea that God has given me life. I've received this beautiful gift from God, which is life in and of itself. And you'll notice when you allow that thought to resonate for even a short moment, while you're lying in bed, even if your eyes are still closed, wow, God has given me another day. Then, even if you go to the to-do list, of all the things you want from today's day, you want from the day, the attitude will be very different when it was based on the foundation of gratitude to God for the gift that he has even given you a day. The to-do list doesn't change, but the attitude towards it is so much more pleasant.
I get to instead of I have to. I get to.
Exactly.
So what's the affirmation you have?
So that's why the first part is the gratitude. Yeah. And the next part of the prayer is, so here's how it goes. Moda ani lefanecha. I am thankful to you, Melech Chai v'Kayam, the great and awesome King who is forever. Shechazarta bi nishmati, you have restored, you've given me my soul, given me another day to live my soul in here in this world in a body. Rabba emunasecha, you have a tremendous amount of faith. Now, what does it mean, tremendous amount of faith? So the commentaries explain on this prayer is, God, you have a tremendous amount of faith in me. The fact that you have given me another day tells me that you see value in me, that you see that I am worthy, that you've given me affirmation. And when we get affirmation from God, and God's affirmation is not, it's not like Facebook likes or any other thing that's out there where people can say, oh, today, I like what you do, and tomorrow I don't like what you do. And so, and our value and sense of self-worth is based on someone else's affirmation. God's affirmation is always there. Every day that he gives us, he is saying, I believe in you. I trust that you are a good person. I trust that you have unique value and that you can make this day a purposeful day. And that affirmation, when we fill the space, because everyone needs affirmation, exactly as you're saying. And when someone is raised with a void of affirmation, sadly, they still seek it in places that are unsafe. And that are there are those out there who are selfish and manipulate and make people feel this sort of delusional affirmation, but it's not real. When we fill that void with God's affirmation, which is true and authentic and real, then we need less affirmation from external places. And when we need less affirmation from external places, we go about our day with a sense of confidence, with a sense of self-worth, that yes, I am worthy in God's eyes. And so regardless of what anyone else will tell us, negative or even positive, we're happy and we're thankful, but that doesn't define who I am. And we're on firm ground, because even if you receive a compliment from someone else and you're dependent on that compliment, well, you're thinking, okay, I have to please that person tomorrow, the day after, because I need that affirmation from someone else. Yeah. It isn't a healthy position to be in. But when you have God's affirmation, it's so powerful, and you allow that to integrate itself in your system. You sort of inflate your soul with God's affirmation. Then you fill that space with good and healthy affirmation, and you don't need external affirmation.
So good. That's really good. Yeah, I do say that every day I wake up. Just thank you, God, for a new day. I say it when I'm in bed. I do. I tell that on all my things. Yeah.
You mentioned before, what does Judaism say about pursuing a career and money and so on, right? And you said there are people who even are wealthy and are depressed and so on. And so you mentioned your dad, which is what reminded me.
Yeah.
But I met your dad, I think, just before he had passed.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
we did a mitzvah together. We prayed together, and we put the tefillin on together, which was a great mitzvah. And so you mentioned that you didn't maybe live with that, in your upbringing. What Judaism says about that is actually that a person should pursue anything that they can to better their life, but with a goal and with an intention to use it for something positive. So, the depression sometimes comes from, or can come from, the fact that I've accumulated all this wealth, and I've purchased all these things from that wealth, but all I've done was just accumulate stuff.
Yeah.
The question is, what am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
And so Judaism says, yes, of course, try to receive as much as you can, but for a goal and a purpose, not as an end in and of itself, but as a means to an end. What can I do with what I have? I share often with when we have bar mitzvahs. You may have been to some of the bar mitzvahs that we've done. There's a story. I think his name was Eddie Rothschild. He was a billionaire, extremely wealthy individual. And when he passed away, he left 2 wills for his children. And he had asked that the first will be opened just after his passing, and the second will be opened after 30 days of his passing, which in Judaism is called the Shaloshim, 30 days. And the children had expected that the will is they're going to split his tremendous estate that he had. They opened the first will, and all it said was one thing: please make sure I am buried with my favorite pair of socks. That was the only thing it said. So they figured, okay, the second will is where we're going to open in 30 days, where he's going to split his estate between all of his children. And so right now the focus is we got to make sure he gets buried with his favorite pair of socks. And so they go and they find somehow his favorite pair of socks, however they found that out. And they go to the funeral home and say, our dad is requested to be buried with his favorite pair of socks. And they said, I'm sorry, we can't allow that. In Jewish tradition, a person can't be buried with any particular item of clothing. Yeah, but he wrote it in his will and so on. Well, but your dad was a religious Jew, he said, and he signed up with our funeral home, and it isn't allowed. Anyway, long story short, they didn't allow it. The children were felt sort of rejected, but that's where he set up his funeral and where to be buried, and those were the laws. And so he somehow, that they couldn't reconcile how to figure that out. Anyway, 30 days passed, and they opened the second will, thinking that this is where the estate is going to be divided. And the will begins like this. The will says, dear children, I am now going to divide my estate. But before that, I'm sure you've realized that I could not be buried with my favorite pair of socks. I did this purposely to teach you that a man could acquire a vast amount of wealth, billions of dollars, and he cannot even leave this world with his favorite pair of socks. And so as you're about to divide this tremendous amount of wealth, I want you to know that it's not about what you've acquired and what I've given you. It's about what you're going to do with what you receive. Because when you leave this world, you're not going to be able to take anything with you, even your favorite pair of socks. What you're going to leave this world with is the difference that you've made with what you have.
So good. I love that. Yeah. But what do you want your legacy? Like, what do you want to be taught? when you leave? Like when I'm gone, what do I want people to say about me, right? Yeah, that's so interesting. That's good.
Yeah.
Wow, this is really, really nice. Thank you so much for this. I feel like we could talk on and on and on. I have so many questions. So what is your favorite prayer? Is it that morning one?
Well, I have a number of favorite prayers, but yeah, that morning one is definitely one of my favorites.
What's
Yep.
another favorite?
Well, there's another prayer that comes a little bit afterwards, which is done actually after, we put ourselves together, and that is that it the focus on the soul. It begins with Elokai, my God, Neshama Shanasata bi, the soul that you have placed within me, Tahorahi is pure. And it's acknowledging the pureness and the goodness of our soul. So many people have been raised with this idea that we're damaged goods, that, we're flawed and we have, we're started out in this world with a disadvantage, either, by nature or by nurture. By some people just have it, naturally they tend to negative, or some people just from their upbringing were always told that they won't amount to anything in life. And so this meditation of this prayer is to remember that no, our soul is pure and it's good, and it has no blemishes to it. It is good. Yeah, that doesn't mean that the day won't come with its challenges. But when we recognize that our soul is pure, it's untainted, doesn't have any scratches in it, it is pure godliness and has pure, good, godly energy. It allows us to go about the day with a very positive and empowered focus.
That's incredible. I like that a lot because I know that what I follow is like when you're born, you're perfect, right? You're born and you don't have any of the programming. You don't have fears. You don't have any of that, and then you absorb from age 0 to 7 is when the brain, like we're sponges and we just absorb all the things from our parents or whoever you're around. And a lot of times it can be whatever thoughts around money or negativity, fears that your parents have can get ingrained in you at a young age. Right. And then you're kind of got to work to unlearn. But what I had to learn is to let things go, because I would hold on to things, but now I just let things go. And that's such a really powerful thing to learn to do, because someone says the wrong thing or looks the wrong, it's all mindset. I feel like everything's mindset, but it's like, especially in sales, all the years of being in sales and all the rejection that you can experience in sales. Like I just finally learned to shift the mindset where it has nothing to do with me. There's a book called The 4 Agreements. And that book, one of the 4 agreements is to never take anything personal, because it's not usually about you. And that's a really powerful thing too. But I love what what Judaism says about the soul and just the affirmation from God to have faith in you. It's like, that's so powerful. That's like feeding yourself the positivity and the goodness to set you up to win for the day, like just that you have a new day. This is a gift. People that are unhappy, like they don't realize. That's why I tell them, like, you need to go start writing gratitude, like, which I've been doing for 11 years. When I had my health problems, I started the gratitude writing out. It could be that the sun was shining, especially if you're living in Michigan, like the sun's shining today. I'm grateful, right? We're here. It's shining a lot. A great cup of coffee, a great conversation, whatever that happened in the day. And it really helps, because once you start doing it, they just start flowing, like I'm grateful for this conversation with you. I'm super grateful. Like this is going to be so great. And so, yeah, it's just good stuff. So let's see what else. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on? What does, so Judaism, what does it say about abundance and joy? Like, I think you touched on that. Like, as long as we're not looking to make them, like going straight, focusing on the money, it's more about focusing on serving and giving, and then it comes. Is that kind of how
it's what can I do with the money?
Oh,
So,
okay.
oftentimes in life, we define ourselves by what we have. It's the opposite. We define what we can accomplish with whatever we have. And the belief is that whatever you have, you can do something positive with. So if you were fortunate enough to have a lot, the question is, what can I do with what I have? And if you were fortunate enough to have a little, because that's fortunate as well, the question is, what can I do with what I have? It's never meant to define us, make us feel worthy. Oh, now I've made it. Now I deserve to live because I have X, Y, and Z, because I earned X, Y, and Z. No, it's whatever I have, what can I utilize it for today? So here I have, now I know what I have, this amount, this abundance, what can I do with it?
Yeah. I feel like the more you have, you have new, different challenges, So it's like, or new things that, like Tony Robbins would say, because I've been studying him for years, he'd say, you have more money, you just have different problems. You're going to have different problems. You know what I mean? Like it's just, but
well, I would say it differently. You have different opportunities.
Yeah, that's a positive way. Yeah.
So everything that you have in life creates opportunities, even challenges that a person has. Let's just even say challenges from having less gives a person a certain insight into life that a person who has more does not have.
Yeah.
And obviously a person who has more has opportunity that a person who has less doesn't have. And more and less is not just about wealth, it's also knowledge.
Yeah.
So even obviously a person has, the more knowledge a person has, the more opportunities perhaps a person has to share, or more things a person has to share with others. But the person who has less knowledge has insight too, because you can ask them, well, how did you get through life? Or how are you going through life with such little opportunities? That's insight there, right there as well. So people who have less sometimes have insight in how to contribute with lesser means, less obvious ways. So everyone has opportunity to share and give. You may need to be maybe a little more creative, but there's always opportunity to use what you have for the greater good.
Yeah, I love it. That's good stuff.
So there's the idea is we had actually someone mentioned to me the other day, he said, Rabbi, in your classes, you always talk about how challenges are opportunities for growth. And so you mentioned, people who have creates its set of challenges. Yeah, the idea is that whatever we have is God's way of saying, here are the opportunities that I have given you for today or for this stage in your life. And I'd like you to utilize them, God is saying. That's where we step into the picture.
Yeah. So I'm in a course with these women that we're all in this course with Kathy Heller, and it's called Abundant Ever After. And we go into these breakout rooms, and I actually had it right before our meeting where I was in this room, and it's like, this is a common thing with women. It seems like, I just want to hear your opinion and touch on of this. It's kind of like a lack mindset or fear around money. And I don't know how we could help, but I told them about a couple books that I've read and that I know about. One is called Money, a Love Story, and one is called Overcoming Under Earning. But it just seems to be a common thing, or maybe it's self-worth, but I feel like I call it programming, like we're robots or something. We were programmed by our parents and programmed by society and programmed by experiences just to have this lack mindset. And how do we get away? How do we get out of that? Is it just giving? Is that the beginning? Is that how we start getting out of the lack, is to give?
Well, when you say lack, define a bit better. Lack.
Okay.
The lack of what?
It's like money. It's money. It's fear. It's lack around money. I can't afford that. So I guess it's desires that are unfulfilled, or just feeling like they don't have enough.
I see. Right. So, okay. So, I think, from a Jewish perspective, there's sort of a shift of mindset. And the shift of mindset is, why am I here? As we previously discussed, what's going to bring me happiness is going to be utilizing what I have for the greater good. And so we assess, what do I have to do something positive? And that's when it brings us positive.
That's when you become rich, is when you have you've created, you're doing your purpose work. I feel like the people that have the lack that I'm talking about need to start writing a gratitude. Like, you have eyesight, you have legs, like this is wealth. Because one man told my son, this is years ago, Josh, you are wealthy. Would you trade your left arm for $10 million?
Exactly.
Or $2 million or whatever. Yeah. So I feel like it's really all perspective. And
right. And that doesn't mean a person shouldn't pursue wealth. To the contrary, a person should. A person should work hard and earn as much as they can. And with the mindset, as we discussed, is with whatever I've earned, how can I make a difference with what I have? That should be the mindset. And once whatever you have, you or don't have, that is not in your control, you say to yourself, well, now I know what God wants me to have. So long that it's beyond my control, now I know that this is what God wants me to have, which is another way of saying, these are the means that God has given me to fulfill the reason and the mission for why I'm here. And so now let me look at what I have and how I can utilize what I have for the greater good. And then tomorrow, again, pursue more means to accomplish with the mindset and the intention of accomplishing a greater good. And whatever means you have at the end of that day, you ask yourself the question, okay, what can I do with what I've earned in all the areas, whether it's in knowledge or whether it's in a particular experience that has given me honed a particular skill in life. That's something you have acquired and you've earned, or money that you've earned.
Yeah.
What can I do with what I've acquired, what I've earned in all my experiences today? How can I utilize this for something good? I think that mindset doesn't take away from looking to grow and earn, but it also tells us not to feel bad by, the lack of opportunities, but to see what are the opportunities that I can utilize for what I have earned or what I do have. How can I utilize it to make a difference in the unique position that I'm in?
Awesome. So good. Yeah. Okay. Two last questions. So what do you tell a young adult that perhaps parents want one thing for them and they want something else? Because I'm a big child advocate. I love children and young adults and young people. And it seems like there's something going on where the child wants something different and the parents want something different for them. How do you, because I know in Judaism, we have to respect our parents, right? Your elders.
Right. Respect, I think respect is irrespective of the question. So a person can respect their parents and should respect their parents, irrespective of their goals. Their goals may not be aligned. But in terms of, so I think that's a separate thing. Respecting and honoring parents is regardless of past. But in terms of, what do you do or what do you say when the parents want one thing for the child and the child wants something else? I think it depends very much on the age and stage that the child is in.
Like
so a younger child, what is it?
18 or older.
So, at that point, at that stage in life, I think it's important for the young adult to really be honest about what they enjoy doing. And so, oftentimes a child at that stage in life is not ready to take directives from a parent. And so what a parent can then suggest or help them find a good mentor, someone who they connect with, someone who can help sort through what is something that they enjoy, that is combined with what is they have a unique set of skills and talents that they can do. It might not be what the parent perhaps had in mind or envisioned, and that's perfectly fine, because we're all human beings, and we don't have none of us are given the crystal ball of where everyone's unique journey how it has to evolve. So I think a parent needs to respect that.
We're all sovereign, right? We're sovereign.
Indeed. But a parent's role at that age and stage is to offer support to their child where they can put them in an environment, or help them be in an environment that's conducive to allowing their talents and skills to emerge and be nurtured. So whether that is helping them get a coach who will help them sort out what's productive, because sometimes a child at that age, doesn't always see, where things will lead them. So they may enjoy it, but that, is the road to a dead end, or perhaps something that could be harmful. So giving them opportunities where they can sort out and find the combination of what they enjoy together with what they are good at, and they truly have a passion for, and they have a unique set of skills. And sometimes that means that their coach or their mentor needs to help them, sort of go through their path and what unique experiences that you have in your life that is giving you insight unique to you, to your set of skills that you can find passion in.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast with this one coach, and he said, if anybody asks a teenager what they want to be when they grow up, they're just ignorant. Like, you ask them, what are your interests? What do you enjoy? Not what do you want to be, because they don't know. And a lot of times they think, they only know like doctor, lawyer. They don't know all these other careers and jobs out there, that are even available. But yeah. So, and then what would you tell the young person or the younger, that just doesn't know what they want? And they're living in today's world with social media, and perhaps they're not, they don't have the faith exactly like, you do. But I'm saying just someone in society, the general public, young teenager, girl or boy, and they don't know what they want, and they live in today's world with social media and comparisonitis and all that. And what could you tell them? What advice would you give them? I always ask this to people.
Right. Well, I would, depending, if they're still sort of in the student stage as a teenager, I would guide them towards working on of having faith in themselves, because that's first and foremost.
So good.
And that affirmation that we talked about, that God sees value in you, and you don't need to be some even spiritual being to relate to that, because just by the fact that you're here, as we discussed, is God saying that I see value in you, and just exercise that thought. I give them a period of time, an assignment, if you will, where they, come back to me in 2 weeks. I give them the meditation based on the prayer that we talked about. And I'd like you to think about this and absorb that idea on a daily basis and build their internal value. Because step 2 would be, then let's find the unique skills that you have. But you can't find the unique skills that you have if you don't believe that there's something unique about you. How do you know that? So you have to first build their sense of self-worth. And their sense of self-worth, not because other people believe in you, because other people are very unpredictable and very unreliable. And you're just, sometimes you might feel good in the moment, but you're setting themselves up for potential failure, because those people who are supportive in their lives may not be there. The next day, the next week, the next month, or in a couple of years. You want to set them up on firm ground where they truly feel a sense of self-worth regardless of their external support system. And that's extremely important. And I believe that if you have the opportunity, it's not imminent, you must sort of set themselves up for success imminently right now. You have a little time to build it. I think that that's an extremely important step to help them grow and feel confident in their abilities. And then step two would be, I have them look for their unique talents and skills. The combination, as we discussed previously, of what are you good at? What do you feel that you have this unique set of skills and that you enjoy?
Yeah.
Maybe experiences in life that gives you that unique perspective that another person does not have.
And maybe they're not, yeah, and sorry to interrupt you, but not that they don't even have to be good at it. If they have something they enjoy, they can become good at it
if they have the time to develop that. That's true. Exactly right. What would you like to develop? And then chart a strategy of how to develop that. And then step three would be the implementation of that. So I think in that order, in that particular order, because if you start with step three, let's implement, this looks good out there, this is what's trending now. In the moment, it might work, but any negative experience or any pushback or any rejection is just going to, even the slightest, if they don't have that internal backing, it's just going to fall to pieces, and that's not going to work long term.
Right, exactly. This has been great. Trying to think what else I wanted to ask you. There's so many things. So what about what does Judaism say about death? Like my father, he's an angel now. Is he around me still? I mean, I'm just asking.
Yeah. Well, in Judaism, the belief is that the soul is eternal.
That's what I thought.
I've often used, you may remember, I've used this analogy often, that the body is like a leased car, a car that we lease. So you are not your vehicle. You existed before you leased the vehicle, and you exist after you turn in the vehicle. Now, obviously, when you lease a car, you lease any automobile, you need to do proper maintenance. You need to do the oil changes. You need to do, change the brake pads and all other maintenance that's needed. And so too, we need to maintain a healthy body. God has given us this lease, which is our body, for X amount of time, a certain amount of time in our lifespan, whatever that is. And may God help all of us that we should live a long life. So the lease on our car and our vehicle and our body is a long lease, but at the end of the day, it has an expiration date where we need to turn in that vehicle. But it's us turning in our vehicle. We are our soul. We are not our body. We go from point A to point B with our vehicle. We go from point A to point B. We're able to accomplish whatever it is in life with our body, but we're not our body. We're our soul. And just like we exist before the lease, so too our soul existed before coming into this world. And so too we exist after we turn in the lease. The soul exists on a different plane, in a different reality, with a different sort of soul settings that it has in this world. Our soul in this world, its settings, I sort of use the analogy, it's like a thermostat. The settings of the soul in this world is to accomplish, as we discussed, to utilize what you have for the greater good. That setting on the soul changes when it enters the next phase of reality, but it continues to exist. And it cares for its loved ones, and it looks for ways, albeit different ways, to support it, and be there for its loved ones.
Nice. Oh, so good. Yeah. Thank you again for going to see my dad and doing all that mitzvah with him, because I'm sure it was great. And my uncle's the one who told me to tell you to go. My uncle said, have the rabbi go there. And that's so good. Because my life actually changed a lot after his death. It seems like a lot of things changed. I was there for him, but it was positive actually how my life started to evolve. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, thank you. Here's one last question and then we'll probably wrap it up. But do you believe that trauma manifests in the body? Because there's a lot of talk lately of, like, I don't know if you've seen the Heal documentary, but there's a lot of like the physical body is we are powerful beings. Perhaps it's not the physical body, it's the soul that's healing the body. But do you believe, like someone wrote a book called The Body Keeps Score, and that people's trauma, unresolved trauma, can manifest in the body as this is a whole new subject we're talking about, but have you ever thought of that? Do you know about that? Like, I'm having pain, and it's actually something going on in your life that's causing the physical ailment.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. I think that I'm not educated on that particular topic, but I do think that makes sense. I think that the body, what's going on internally is expressed externally, and our mental health and our physical health are
Connected.
Run together. And what we're experiencing, whether it's a trauma or any other mental health ailment, will express itself. That makes sense to me. Will express itself in some form or another in the body.
It's so wild. Yeah, because I was listening to one where this girl, she was having this back pain, and then she ended up healing herself through yoga and some other things. And it's just fascinating to me that you can you can heal your body through mental healing. Yeah. Well, is there anything else you would like to share? And also tell everybody where they can find you, the Rabbi in Novi, at your center and everything, in the website.
Well, I think I've shared along the course and through your questions. I think that, what's important, one last message, I guess, if that's what you're referring to, Linda, is focus on the positive. We have choice. We don't control oftentimes our circumstances, but we control the attitude that we have to our circumstances. And we have the choice to be either positive or negative. And oftentimes being positive takes work, but it's work that's worth it. And so keeping a positive mindset, I think is extremely important and something worthwhile to work on.
Yeah.
Always seeing the positive, because there's, two sides to everything.
Yeah.
In terms of, how can people reach me? So we are in Novi, Michigan. We're right on Grand River. Anyone who lives in the area knows where Grand River is. 40550 Grand River in Novi. And we have,
services,
health educational classes on Kabbalah ideas. As you know, you've attended those classes, Linda, and a whole host of Jewish opportunities for people to come and be enriched by.
Yes. And what is the website?
NoviJewishCenter.com.
Yeah. I'll put that in the show notes too. And a lot of my listeners are Michigan people. And my social media is mostly Michigan. So we'll definitely put all that, the links in the show notes, the address of the center. It's very nice. And so Passover is coming. Are you having something for Passover?
Yes, we have our community Passover dinner. I think you've been at that, Linda.
I have multiple times. It's like your birthday celebration too,
That's
right?
correct. That's right. My birthday is the day just before Passover. That's right. So we end up, the dessert is always Passover cake for everyone to enjoy, and we celebrate. So we're looking forward to it. It's a beautiful opportunity for community to come together. There's a lot of friendship and a lot of spiritual ideas that are shared, all in good spirits.
Yes. And what is the date of Passover this year? Don't have
Passover is the first night of Passover is on a Wednesday. It's April 5th.
April 5.
Yep. That's the night that we have our community Passover Seder. Yes, if any of your listeners would like to enjoy a good night of meaning, the focus of the night is the spiritual idea of how to attain freedom in our lives and how to pursue freedom in our lives and overcome, the restrictions and impediments to that soul freedom. That's the theme of the night, what we focus on, and we have a beautiful experience. So any listener who feels that they would like to participate is welcome to reach out.
Wonderful. Yes, and amazing food, delicious food. That I will say. Always.
I can't take credit for that. That's my wife's and my girls' department.
Yes, so good, so good. Thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate it so much. And it's going to be a wonderful episode.
My pleasure.
I hope you loved that episode. Here are the takeaways. God values every single one of us. We are all here with a unique talent. Every soul has a mission. God is the ultimate employer. He doesn't hold on to anyone he doesn't need. There is something we can all contribute that no one else can. We are meant to be happy in life. Happiness is a byproduct of goodness. Happiness lasts. Pleasure is temporary. We are designed to be givers. We are designed to create. When we overcome, we become. Ego is our spiritual workout, and we grow from it. Nothing is limited. We can always go beyond our limitations. Our value is not determined by our accomplishments or how much we have. We are not our bodies. It is what I can do with what I have for the greater good. It doesn't have to be monetary. It can be time. It can be knowledge. What can I do with what I learned or what I've earned? Children should be honest with their parents, and parents should support their children. Our souls are eternal. Our souls are like a candle flame. When we give to another, nothing is taken away. We just have more light. Focus on the positive. We all have a choice. Choose positivity. When you leave this world, what difference will you have made? I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please share, subscribe, and review as always. I want to grow this audience to reach as many people as I can. Have a beautiful day, and the links for Rabbi Susskind and Chabad of Novi will be in the show notes. Live empowered.